Okay, this is the second part to the notes. So yesterday we did this. We're going to continue on these notes. So I know on the last notes I said, oh, we need to go ahead and write our table of contents. Because we're continuing the notes, we don't need to fill out the table of contents. This is still the same notes. It's just the backside. So it's continued. Okay. In class, I gave you this multiplication chart and the division rules. I know that divide by 7 is kind of tough to see, but we'll go over it as we're moving along. Okay. The multiplication table, I'm going to leave it there just in case you guys need it. Hopefully you have those facts down. What we're really going to be covering today is three things. Number one, the division rules. Number two, two-step multiplication, and then number three, long division. Okay, so let's go over the division rules. And I'm going to do it with some random numbers. So you're going to hear me rambling quite a bit. These rules of divisibility, they are pretty useful. Some more than others. Okay, you're gonna see me kind of skate by some of them, but we're gonna take our time on some other ones. Okay, so on the top, I'm just gonna write some random numbers, right? So let's see. I'm gonna go 2 1 0 4 5. You don't need to write that. You just need to follow along. Okay, I just kind of watch for a little bit. You can kind of put your hands in your lap and then just watch, and then hopefully this will make sense. So that way, when we actually do the notes, it'll be a little bit faster. Okay, so division rules. How do I know if a number is divisible by 2? According to these rules, a number is divisible by 2 if it ends in an even number. That is to say, if it ends with a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, then I know it's divisible by 2. When I look at this big number, I see that it ends with a 5. 5 is not even, therefore, this is not divisible by 2. Divisible by 2, no way. Why? Because this is a 5. If this would have looked like this, now, because it ends in an even number, then I know it's divisible by 2. Okay, so most students are pretty good with divisible by 2 rule. That one is no problem. Let's take a look at divisible by 3 because it's actually a pretty nice rule, and a lot of students don't know it. So the rule says it's divisible by 3 if the sum of the digits is divisible by 3. So again, here's this large number, and I want to see if I divide it by 3, is it going to divide evenly? Well, the rule says we're going to add these numbers up. So I'm going to add 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 0 is still 3, plus 4 is 7, plus 6 is 13. So when I added up these numbers, what I ended up with was 13. Well, all you got to do is check, is 13 divisible by 3? The answer is no. So since 13 is not divisible by 3, then the number 21,046 is also not divisible by 3. Pretty nice rule. Like whoever came up with it must have been a genius. Let's change it a little bit. Let's make that into a 7. Let's try it again just to see. I'm going to add these numbers up. I'm going to go 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 0 is still 3, plus 4 is 7, plus another 7 is 14. When I added these up, the number I got was 14. So now I check, is 14 divisible by 3? The answer is no. So again, it's still not divisible by 3. Let's change the number one more time. I'm going to change that 4 into a 5. Now I have 21,057. I'm going to add these numbers up. Let's see, that's going to be 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 0 is still 3, plus 5 is 8, plus 7 is 15. When I added these numbers together, I got 15. Is 15 divisible by 3? That is a yes. And since 15 is divisible by 3, then I know the original number, 21,057, is also divisible by 3. So that is your divide by 3 rule, okay? All right, let's try the next rule. The next rule is how do I know if it's divisible by 4? If the last two digits are divisible by 4, then the whole number is divisible by 4. So let's do another large number. We're going to do this one kind of easy, and then we're going to show you where this number kind of makes it a little bit tougher. So if I have something that looks like, I don't know, 24, what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to check the last two numbers. You see the 24 out there, and check, is 24 divisible by 4? The answer is yes, therefore that whole thing is divisible by 4. If that would have been 21,025, now I go 25 divided by 4, that doesn't work, and therefore this number is not divisible by 4. This is a pretty good rule, but you do have to know your first 100 digits if they are divisible by 4. So when you get up to the higher numbers, something like this, you need to know if 98 is divisible by 4. I personally know that it's not. So it's one of those things like you kind of have to remember the first 4 digits, count count by fours all the way up to 100, okay? But that is the divide by 4 rule. Hopefully that made sense. Let's move on to the next rule. The next rule is the divide by 5 rule. Divide by 5 rule is really easy. If the last digit is 0 or 5, then you can divide by 5. So all I got to do is look at the last digit. Here's my last digit. It's an 8. Is that a 0 or a 5? Nope. So then it's not divisible by 5. If this would have looked like this, yep, the last number is a 0, therefore it's divisible by 5. Okay? So the divisible by 5 rule, most students know it pretty good. Divisible by 6 is my favorite rule of the bunch. It is amazing. Divisible by 6, it says if the number is divisible by 2 and by 3, then it is divisible by 6. So I want you to just think in general, right? Like, how do you make a 6? Well, the way you make a 6 is by taking a 2 and multiplying it by a 3. And basically they're saying, all right, well, if you can divide by 2 and divide by 3, then you can divide by 6. That's exactly it. So when you're dividing by 6, first you got to check if it's divisible by 2. Then you got to check if it's divisible by 3. If it's divisible by 2 and 3, then it's divisible by 6. So we got to backtrack. All right, let's see if this is divisible by 6. I'm going to put this here and I'm just going to put question mark. Well, if that's going to be true, then first it has to be divisible by 2. How do I know if it's divisible by 2? Well, if the last number is even. Is the last number even? The answer is yes. So far, I'm at a yes. It is divisible by 2. The next thing I need to check if it's divisible by 3. How do I check if it's divisible by 3? Well, that's the one we did a little while ago where you have to add up the digits and see if it's divisible by 3. So I'm going to add 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 0 is still 3, plus 9 is 12, plus 0 is still 12. So when I added these up, I got 12. And 12 is divisible by 3. The answer is yes. So it's divisible by 3. Because it's divisible by 2 and 3, then it's divisible by 6. Okay? All right. If I would have changed this to this, like that, well, it's still divisible by 2. I'm going to do this in red because it's ending with an even number. But when I add up the digits together, this would have been a 14, and a 14 is not divisible by 3, so that would have been a no. So it's divisible by 2, but it's not divisible by 3, therefore it's not divisible by 6 because you need both of them to work. So that is the divide by 6 rule. It needs to be divisible by 2 and 3. It's a really, really nice rule, okay? And now we go to the most obscure one. Man, honestly, I am currently 43 years old, and I did not know this rule until yesterday. The divide by 7 rule. I learned it, think it's pretty neat, and we're going to show you exactly how this works. So let's do something that looks like this. I'm going to go 4, 9, 1, 6. Sure, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. Nope, let's not do that. That number's too large. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. But let's do 496, and I want to see if that's divisible by 7. I know it's kind of hard to read, but it says divisible by 7. First, you got to double the last digit. Then you got to subtract it from the rest of the number. And if the answer is 0 or if it's divisible by 7, then this is divisible by 7. I know that sounds like a lot. Okay, it's really not that bad once you understand the gist. So the first thing it says is take the last digit and double it. So I'm going to take that 6, double it, that becomes a 12. Now I'm going to take that 12 and subtract it from the rest of the number. Well, the rest of the number is 49. So I'm going to take the 12, subtract it from the 49, and what I get is 37. And so what I do is I check, hey, is that 37 divisible by 7? Well, no, that doesn't work because 7 times 5 is 35 and 7 times 6 is 42. So this doesn't work, therefore it's not divisible by 7. Okay. Let's try a funkier one because I just did that bigger one and I started getting a little nervous on it. I shouldn't be nervous on it. Let's see. Let's do a big one. Let's go 5, 1, 3, 7. All right, let's check if that's divisible by 7. Remember, we're going to take that first number. We're going to double it. That's 7 times 2. That becomes 14. I'm going to take the 14 and subtract it from the rest of the number. So this is going to be minus 14. 513 minus 14, that is 499. Just trust me on that. Is 409 divisible by 7? I don't know. Like, I don't know all the way up there. So what do? I just do it again. That's the nice thing about this rule is like you can keep doing it until the number becomes nice. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to take the 9, I'm going to double it. That becomes 14. I'm going to take that 14, I'm going to subtract it from the original number, or the leftover number, I should say, and that becomes 35. Sorry, I'm running out of space. Is 35 divisible by 7? The answer is yes. Therefore, my original number, 5,137, is in fact divisible by 7. If when you subtract the numbers, you get a number that's divisible by 7, or let's just pretend, I know that's not what happened, or, if you would have done something like this and got minus 49, and the answer is 0, 0 is also divisible by 7 because it's 0 times 7. So that also would have worked, okay? So that's your divide by 7 rule. And that one is done. Guys, honestly, the divide by 8 rule, I absolutely hate. It's like probably one of the worst ones. It says if the last 3 digits are divisible by 8, then the whole number is divisible by 8. So if it looks something like this, and I'm going to make a really easy one just so you can kind of see. Is 1016 divisible by 8? Well, what I do is I check the last 3 numbers. The last 3 numbers is 0, 16, and because 0, 16, which is just 16, is divisible by 8, then I know that 1016 is divisible by 8. The problem becomes when you get a number like this, and you say, hey, is 984 divisible by 8? Like, I don't know. It's kind of hard, okay? But there are sometimes, like, the numbers are kind of easy. Like, if you get something like, looks like this, like 1,800, that one you can do. Like, that one, the last 3 digits are definitely divisible by 8 because it's just 800 divided by 8, it's 100. So sometimes it's kind of easy. Sometimes it really doesn't help you out that much, okay? So that's the divide by 8 rule. They get much easier. Divide by 9 rule. Divide by 9 rule is just like the divide by 3 rule. This rule and this rule are exactly the same. They work the exact same way. You're going to add up the digits. The only difference is when you add up the digits if it's divisible by 9. So like if I have something that looks like this, 6, 12. Okay, so if I have something that looks like this, I add up the digits. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. When I add up these digits, I get 15. Is that divisible by 9? The answer is no, therefore it's not divisible by 9. Not only that, it actually makes it kind of easy because you see how this is 15? And I'm like, no, 15 is not divisible by 9, but 18 is divisible by 9. That means if I add 3 to this number, or if I add 3 to this number, or if I add 3 to this number, or if I add 3 to this number, it's going to work because I'm only 3 numbers away. So let's show you what I mean. Let's say I add 3 to that number. Let me go ahead and add those numbers again. I already know what's going to happen, but let's just check. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 9 is 15. 15 plus 3 is 18. 18 is divisible by 9. Therefore, this whole number is divisible by 9. All right, and then the last one, if the number ends with 0, it's divisible by 10. Super easy rule. If it looks like this, if that last number is a 0, then I know it's divisible by 10. All right, guys, I've been talking a lot, and you haven't been doing anything. And I know that gets kind of wary. So let's go ahead and start on the notes. I'm going to jam really quickly by these because I know you guys know a lot of this stuff. Okay, so, and I don't want to bore the heck out of you. Let's just move. Is 413 divisible by 7? Let's remind you of the divisible by 7 rule. I'm going to take 413. I'm going to take the last number, which is that 3. I'm going to double it. That's 6. I take the 6 and I subtract it from the rest of the number. 41 minus 6, that is 35. Is 35 divisible by 7? The answer is yes. Therefore, 413 is divisible by 7. Okay? Let's take a look at the next one. 585, is that divisible by 9? Well, remember the divide by 9 rule is like the divide by 3 rule. You add up the digits. So I'm going to add 5 plus 8 plus 5. That gives me 18. Is 18 divisible by 9? The answer is yes. So this is divisible by 9. Is 256 divisible by 4? Well, what we do is we check the last 2 numbers. The last 2 numbers are 56. Is 56 divisible by 4? And again, this is where you have to kind of like hopefully remember some of this stuff. All the way up to 100, yes, 56 is divisible by 4. Therefore, 256 is divisible by 4. Let's do another one. Is 80 divisible by 5 and 10? So they're asking you two different questions. Is 80 divisible by 5? Well, remember, to be divisible by 5, it either has to end with a 0 or a 5. I just look at the last number. Oh, look, it ends with a 0 or a 5, so it's definitely divisible by 5. That's a check. How do I know if it's divisible by 10? Well, the 10 rule is it has to end with a 0. It does end with a 0, so it is divisible by 10. Check. So our answer is going to be yes, it is divisible by 5 and by 10. So far, all the answers are going to be yes. Here are a couple of you tries. Go ahead and press pause in the video. I want you to try to see if it's divisible by 6. Remember, for the rule for 6 is it needs to be divisible by 2 and 3. Try the next two problems on your own. I'm going to press pause on the video. I'm going to assume you already did that and just go over the answer. So if I want to see if it's 312 is divisible by 6, first I need to see if it's divisible by 2. How do I know if it's divisible by 2? If the last number is even. I look at the last number. Yep, the last number is even. It is divisible by 2. That's not enough, though. Now I need to check if it's divisible by 3. How do I know if it's divisible by 3? Well, I add 3 plus 1 plus 2. I get 6. And check, is 6 divisible by 3? The answer is yes. So it's divisible by 2 and it's divisible by 3. Therefore, it is divisible by 6. Last one, 658. Is it divisible by 7? That's that weird rule that we learned today. I'm going to take 658. I take the last number. I'm going to take that 8, move it over to the side. We're going to double it. That gives me 16. What do I do with that 16? I subtract it. I go 65 minus 16. And I believe that answer is 49. I check to see 49. Is 49 divisible by 7? The answer is yes. Oh my goodness. All of these answers were yes. Guys, on the homework, I promise you there's going to be some ones that say no. Okay, so that takes care. Oh my gosh. Let's go back. Oh no, yeah, you're fine. You're fine. I thought I made a mistake, but I'm good. All right, that takes care of the divisibility rules. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into the multiplication and division. Guys, I'm going to go really fast through this because, again, I know this video is stretching out to be long. All right, anything I highlight, I need you to highlight. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the ones place. I'm going to multiply these by 8. 8 times 4 is going to be 32. Bring down the 2. Let me do this in blue. 3 goes on top. 3 times 8 is 24. But 24, I still need to add the 3. That gives me a 27. And when I multiply the 8s, the answer I got was 272. I am done multiplying the ones. Now I'm going to multiply the tens place. Since I'm multiplying the tens place, I need a 0 to hold my spot right here. And now I can start multiplying by 2. First thing I'm going to do is going to go 2 times 4. That 2 times 4 becomes 8. I forgot to get rid of this. I don't need that 3 anymore. I already multiplied the 2 times 4. The next is the 2 times 3. 2 times 3, I get 6. I'm going to add these two numbers together. By the way, when I multiplied the 2's, I ended up with 68. So let me highlight that. Now I'm just going to add straight up and down. That's going to give me a 2. 7 plus 8 is 15. I bring over the 1. 2 plus 1 is 3 plus 6 gives me 9. And we get an answer of 952. Hopefully this is like major review, and maybe I'm knocking some of the cobwebs off of this if you forgot how to do it. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to start by multiplying by my ones. I'm going to multiply my ones, in this case is 4. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 4 times 3, and I get 12. The 2 goes down here. I bring the 1 over and carry it. Now I'm going to multiply the 4 with the 1. 4 times 1, that's going to give me a 4. Now I add the 1. 4 plus 1, I get 5. When I multiplied my ones, which in this case was a 4, the answer I got was 52. Now I'm going to multiply my tens place. In order for me to remember that I'm multiplying by tens, I'm going to put a placeholder on the 0. And don't forget, I already used the 1, so I get to scratch that out. Let's go to multiply my 10. So this is going to be 2 times 3. That gives me 6. Nothing to carry over. 2 times 1, that's going to give me 2. Nothing to carry over. When I multiplied my tens place, the answer I got was 26. And now I'm just going to add these up and down. So this is going to be 2. 5 plus 6 is 11. Bring over that 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. The answer I get is 312. Here's a you try, so go ahead and press pause on the video. I want you to go ahead and try it out. I'm going to assume you already did that. We're going to go ahead and multiply 5. 5 times 7, that gives me 35. I write down the 5 over here and carry the 3. 5 times 4, that's going to be 20, but don't forget I need to add an extra 3. That's going to give me 23. I am done with that 3. Let me go ahead and cross it out. And when I multiply by my ones, the answer I got was 235. So let me go ahead and highlight that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply my tens. In this case, the 3 is in the tens place. Remember, before you do that, you need to put a 0 to hold your place. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply 3 times 7. I get 21. Write the 1 down here, bring the 2 over. Next, I get to multiply the 3 times 4, which is 12. 12 plus an additional 2, that gives me 14. When I multiply my tens place, the answer I got was 141. And sorry about that. I just realized I highlighted that thing the wrong color. So let me go ahead and get rid of that. It's not cooperating with me. That should have been in green, guys. Sorry if I messed you up. We're going to add these together, and I get 5, 4, 6, and 1. So my answer is 1,645. Oh my goodness, we are almost done. We are moving on to long division. Long division is a process. Let's see if we remember it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that number on the outside. And I'm going to check with the first number, does 3 go into 5? 3 does go into 5, and it goes in 1 time. So right above the 5, I write a 1. Now I'm going to take that 1, multiply it by 3. 1 times 3, the answer is 3, which means I get to bring down the 3 right underneath the 5. We subtract these, I get 5 minus 3, and the answer I get is 2. All right. Once I'm done with the 5, I'm going to move on to the next number, so I'm going to bring down the 2. I'm going to go through the process all over again. I'm going to check 3. How many times does it go into 22? The answer is 7. So right above the 2 that I dropped, I'm going to write my answer, which is 7. Now I'm going to multiply 7 times 3. That's going to give me a 21. 21 goes down here on the bottom. I subtract 22 minus 21, and the answer I get is 1. I'm almost done. I got this last 7 I need to bring down. That turns that 1 into a 17. And I check again. This 3, how many times does it go into 17? The answer is 5. So I multiply. 5 times 3 is 15, and I put the 15 down here. I subtract 17 minus 15. The answer I get is 2. There is, if I wanted a decimal, I would bring in a decimal and bring in some zeros and keep going. However, for the formative today, once we are done with all the numbers, we end up with the remainder. All I'm going to write is remainder 2. 175 remainder 2. And that would be my first division answer. Let's try the next one. Our 7's maybe not so great, so let's go ahead and try them out. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check this 7. How many times does it go into 6? The answer is it does not. So you could put a 0 on top just to kind of hold its place. Most students do not, though. I'm going to leave the 0 on top for now, just so you can kind of see where the placement goes. So now I'm going to move on to the next number, which means instead of thinking it as a 6, I'm going to think of this as a 68, because my number needs to get bigger or else the 7 won't be able to go into it. So how many times does 7 go into 68? The answer is 9 times. Now, I like the 0 up there just because it forces me to put the 9 on top of the 8. If you don't put the 0 up there, that's fine. But just make sure that you are putting the 9 on top of the 8 and not on top of the 6. Okay, it makes a difference when you're writing your answers. So now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and multiply these out. 9 times 7 is going to give me a 63. I write the 63 under the bottom. Subtract 68 minus 63, that gives me 5. I bring down the 2. And I start the process again. And I say 7. How many times does it go into 52? The answer to that one is 7. 7 times 7, the answer I get is 49. And I subtract 52 minus 49, the answer is 3. And there's no more numbers here for me to bring down. That means this is my remainder. So I'm going to write 97 remainder 3. All right, almost done, guys. This is a you try, so go ahead and pause the video, try it out on yourself. I'm going to assume you already did that, so let's just go ahead and jump into it. The 2 goes into the 3 one time. 1 times 2, I get 2. I subtract and I get 1. Now I get to bring down that 0, and I go through the process again. 2 goes into 10 5 times. I multiply these out. 5 times 2, the answer I get is 10. I subtract, the answer I get is 0. I still have some more numbers though, so I got to keep going. How many times does 2 go into 2? The answer is 1 time, so on top of that 2, I write a 1. 1 times 2, the answer is 2. I subtract, and 2 minus 2 is 0 again. Almost done. I get to bring down that 1. Oh, this part. Hey, I'm going to check. 2 goes into 1 how many times? The answer is none. You need to put the answer is none up here. It makes a huge difference, okay? The answer is none. Normally, I would bring down the next number, which would be right here. But again, I don't have any more numbers. So that 1 is going to be my remainder. I'm going to write this as remainder 1. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of these long notes. Usually they won't be that long, sorry, but there was a lot to go over. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.